Connectivity. It's an essential for development, and it's an issue that's being increasingly discussed in consideration in development programming, as we've already heard from Rurik. What do we mean by connectivity? We've already talked about transport infrastructure, land, sea and air, digital connectivity, communications, including telephone landlines and cellular, the internet, the latter having revolutionised the way we live through 24-hour connectivity with smartphones. And we should not underestimate people-to-people connectivity, exchange programmes between countries, particularly in the field of education, sport and the arts, all of which help to promote mutual cultural understanding and lead to a more harmonious and peaceful world. They also open up opportunities too for business. And of course we have the Internet of Things to look forward to, which will radically connect the appliances we use daily, allowing us to control our surroundings and our daily routine remotely. I'm sorry I missed the humanoid experience yesterday, but that's a taste of things to come. And this will be a world where to be unconnected will be to be left behind. Nepal is currently in the process of transforming itself profoundly as it moves into a new phase of development. The transformation from a unitary to a federal state will present many opportunities for inclusive growth and prosperity. Connectivity, I believe, will be both an important driver for growth and development, and it will also be the long-term guarantee of its sustainability, and business needs to be part of that effort. However, before going more deeply into future perspectives for Nepal and South Asia, I would like to talk a little bit about connectivity from a European perspective. The EU is an organic entity, and connectivity is part of its DNA. Europe has witnessed two world wars. The first took place between 1914 and 1918, and resulted in the death of millions. The second from 1939 to 1945, so even more death and destruction, bringing many European countries to virtual economic and social collapse. As parties suffered immensely in terms of losses to lives, infrastructure and industry. These wars led to the origins of the EU. It all started on the 9th of May 1950, only 5 years after the Second World War ended, when the French Foreign Minister Robert Schuman proposed to Belgium, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg and the Netherlands cooperation and integration, starting with coal and steel. They were the local bricks of the economy at the time, and these were the industries that were critical for war. 7 years later, the Rome Treaty of 1957 expanded this bold project to the economy as a whole, going beyond coal and steel. At that time, it was and still is believed that this union, the European Union, is an effective way to maintain peace and to promote economic development and increase prosperity for all. What started with 6 member states in 1950 gradually expanded over the years to a European Union of currently 28 member states, bringing with it, of course, increased connectivity. It could not have been otherwise. This was due not particularly to the European Union member states at the time being particularly prescient or being particularly virtuous. It was simply a necessity. Each wave of enlargement brought new demands for connectivity and new benefits from it. Let me outline some of these. The trans-European networks were created by the Rome Treaty with the objective to create an internal market and the reinforcement of economic and social cohesion. Social cohesion was the then term for inclusion. It's what we would call today inclusion. The TENs, as they were known, the Trans-European networks, were in fact 3 policies. 10T for transport, 10E for energy, and E10 for telecommunications. They ran out of acronyms, I think, somewhere near the end. The European regional funds then were used to create roadways to the most inaccessible parts of Europe to ensure transport, energy and telecoms to even the most inaccessible places. Still today, if you go to the outermost parts of the EU, say the west coast of Ireland or Scotland, or the very southern part of Italy, you will find roads bearing the EU plaque saying constructed by the EU regional funds. Borders and custom points no longer exist between the member states in the European Union. They are all linked by roads and rail and air, allowing goods and individuals to move unrestricted and efficiently. It's now possible to travel from Brussels to Paris in 1 hour and 20 minutes, by train, by Thalys, or from London to Paris in a couple of hours using the Channel Tunnel. Even In recent memory, some 5-7 years ago, it would take 5 hours to go from Brussels to Frankfurt. It now takes 3 hours with a nice train. These are the kind of progress that have been made in connectivity. Rurik spoke about economic corridors. We have looked at rivers and valleys are the most traditional economic corridors. The EU has for that reason, developed a project on management of the Danube, Europe's second longest river, which is managed by 14 member states that it passes through, and it provides vital waterway for commerce, tourism and development. This project brings together preservation of the waterways, conservation in a sustainable manner, while revitalising the riverine towns and cities. Collective management means shared responsibility to ensure riverbanks are not overgrown, that no blockages occur, and no delays in delivery of products and services can be envisaged. Furthermore, this connection within the towns and within the countries of the EU is further enhanced by a connectivity with the Mekong River Commission, which has been established between the Danube and the Mekong countries for twinning of towns and for sharing of lessons learned. And both these communities, the Danube community and the Mekong community, meet every year to discuss the latest technological developments in river management. This is, I think, a very good example of the kind of connectivity that we need. Air networks and airports are, of course, highly developed, but perhaps a less obvious form of ensuring that connectivity leads to greater opportunities in business is the regulation of the internet and regulation of mobile phones. We had a huge disparity of charges, mobile phone charges and mobile phone roaming charges, in particularly in the EU, that has now been regulated in order to ensure ease of business, better tourism practices and benefits to citizens. A single currency, of course, is a very typical example of connectivity. We couldn't get more connected than that. The euro allows for smoother and more efficient banking and commerce, again generating prosperity and investment and making doing business easier. From a people-to-people exchange perspective, the EU has a number of cultural exchange programmes, Erasmus being perhaps one of our most popular with young people, to which many Nepali students have participated and benefited from. Finally, additionally, the twinning of towns in different member states promotes people-to-people connectivity within Europe, but also between Europe and other countries. South Asia, I believe, including Nepal, could also benefit in the same way from increased connectivity. They've been mentioned already, some of the projects that can lead to this. Projects such as the China's Belt and Road Initiative, or the BRI as it's known, has the potential to connect Nepal to its northern neighbour, offering huge possibilities for the future. In the same way, Nepal's potential for hydroelectric power is enormous. India and other partners' investment in hydropower projects could assist in realising this potential. With the vast amount of water resources which Nepal has access to, the possibility of producing and selling electricity to neighbouring countries in the SAARC region are very high. This would not only benefit Nepal in terms of revenue, but also those countries that have electricity shortfalls. Other projects are also currently ongoing, adding to Nepal and South Asia's connectivity. Two that need to be mentioned are the international airports currently under construction in Pokhara and Barawa, and they will bring huge benefits, I believe, in terms of increased transportation connectivity. All of these could contribute to Nepal's long-term sustainable development. South Asia and the European Union are partners and friends. Our economic ties are an important element of this partnership, with potential to grow and to contribute to Nepal's vision to graduate from LDC status as soon as possible and to reach middle income status by 2030. The EU actively promotes trade and investment because it is beneficial for development and prosperity, notably in macroeconomic terms, growth, job creation, efficiency and stronger economies. And trade depends on connectivity. Trade and investment are not only about big business and multinational companies. They're about individual people, livelihoods and communities. They're also about that moment when a small business somewhere in Europe discovers that there's a market for what it makes in India or Nepal or China or the United States. Or that moment when a small business in South Asia, Africa or the Caribbean is able to sell its goods in the EU for the first time. It can expand opportunities for all, The work of the European Commission is to create the conditions that make such inclusive trade links possible. Working with the European Investment Bank allows us to leverage more money for creating such links. Over the past 15 years, trade between SAARC countries and the EU has been steadily increasing. However, there is still enormous scope for greater growth and at a more rapid pace. Overall, the EU is the third major trade partner with Nepal, the second major export partner and the third major import partner. Nepal, as an LDC, is also a beneficiary of the EU's Everything But Arms regulation, and therefore Nepal's exports enter the EU market entirely duty-free. This could be a massive gain for Nepal, but it needs to be exploited much more. Today, the EU is also the third largest partner of Nepal in terms of foreign direct investment and a major partner in the tourist sector. About every fifth tourist visiting Nepal is European. Even after the 2015 earthquake, tourist arrivals continue to increase. Finally, increased connectivity between the countries of South Asia, including Nepal, and the EU will create more opportunities for increased trade in the region and beyond, benefiting all involved. Further development of regional organisations such as the SAARC, the BIMSTEC and the BBIN would serve to greatly enhance connectivity in the region and beyond. In short, ladies and gentlemen, it's a timely moment to examine connectivity and how it could be used to drive growth and development. It goes without saying that women, that other 50% of the population, need to be fully involved in this effort. Let me conclude briefly by wishing you a very successful event over the coming days. Thank you very much.